Wake that ass up.
Early in the morning.
The Breakfast Club.
Morning, everybody. It's DJ MV, Angela Yee, Charlamagne the Guy. We are the Breakfast Club. We have a special guest in the building.
The forever legendary.
Are you okay, MV?
I was going to say the beautiful.
She has that effect on me.
She does.
Yes.
We have Nia Long here.
Good
morning.
Welcome.
Nia Long. I saw you got your own day in New York from the mayor also.
Oh my, you guys, I cried about that for like a week.
Yay, congratulations.
That was like the biggest honor, and I was blown away, honestly, because you don't expect. Like, I have my own day.
August 27th.
Yes.
Do you feel the pressure to have to do something on that day now? Like in New York, like an event?
I have to come here every year on that day and talk to you. That's what I got to do.
That can work.
That's fine.
That works
Right?
fine.
Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Yeah, we can do that.
It's coming up.
I know it is.
How are you, though?
I'm okay. I lost my father
Condolences.
recently.
Sorry
Thank
to hear
you. He was a great man, and it's amazing. I learned more about him by being in Trenton, New Jersey, for a week, just putting the whole thing together, than I ever knew. Because you know, like, I'm an adult. My life is in California. He was in Trenton, and he was such an icon in the community and did so much for so many of those kids living down there. So I was really proud of him.
He was a poet, right?
He's a poet, yeah. He's a poet, a writer, a photographer, like just a Renaissance man. Loved jazz music and good food, and he was really like Lorenz Tate and Lev Jones, but older.
Wow.
Now, what did he do for those kids out in Trenton? Because Trenton they get a bad rap.
They do. And I got to tell you something, like, I've been going back and forth a lot as a young woman, as a, being a mom, before I was a mom. And I've seen the city grow and change. And I think there's first of all, there's an amazing group of artists that live there. So they're doing spoken word, they're musicians, they're singers, they're educating themselves. I think every city has its problems, but because Trenton is so small, it's magnified, But I felt the school, Trenton High School, did a beautiful tribute to my father. And they did spoken word, and all the kids, some of his past students came. I could not stop crying. I was just like, this is amazing. Because sometimes what a person can't do for their own children, they do for the world. And I'm okay with that if that meant that I had to share him.
Ooh, I think that's because, parents, they learn more as they grow. So when they was raising us,
they were
just doing the
22
best they
years
could.
old.
Yeah.
I was thinking about that. I said, Mommy, I looked at my mother during the service. I said, Mommy, you were 22 years old when you had me. Right now, today, anything, I forgive you for everything. Because I couldn't have done it at 22. Right. 22, I was in the club with Puff and Heavy and all the guys. We were in the club back then. So...
that's been a heavy conversation with my therapist the past couple of weeks.
What's that?
That whole conversation about forgiving your parents, well, my father in particular, because they only could do the best that they could because they didn't know any better when they were younger.
You have to really do it for yourself. It's if you commit that healing with yourself, it will honestly change the way you experience your own life. Because I think for a lot of years I was disappointed and angry, and I wanted, my dad to read me a bedtime story and be there and do all of the things that a daddy is supposed to do. And I think my father had a very old school way of approaching life because Black people are raised to survive.
That's right.
And my mother and my grandmother, coming from the islands, they had a different philosophy. So had my parents stayed together, I may have still been an actress, but I don't think it would have happened as quickly as it did in my life. And I don't think I would have been a part of, the era that really helped to define Black cinema. And so when I look at my life, and I'm going to be 50 this fucking
Get the fuck
year.
out of here.
That's great.
Fucking 50, you guys. 50? I get to do whatever the fuck I want to do.
Just be like, I can't wait.
We gotta upgrade the term Black Don't Crack. It's got to be something else. 'Cause 50. Wow.
I can't believe it. But my point is when you get to this age, it's a beautiful time in my life because I can actually put everything into perspective and now it all makes sense.
Right.
And I feel more free and alive than I have in the last 10 years because I have understanding. And I've forgiven myself for not forgiving people sooner in my own life, or forgiving my father for things that he was unable to do. And it's a good thing to do.
Don't we have the luxury of healing, though? This generation has the luxury of healing.
The fact that you just said I've spoken to my therapist about certain things, Black people were not saying that 15, 20 years ago. We were like, we didn't, because there was this, the idea was if you go to therapy, there's something really wrong with you.
That you're crazy.
That you're crazy. And the reality is we have so much information coming at us 24/7 with our phones, right? With the world, with a crazy president, with, all the things that are happening. You need to be able to sit down and organize your life and your thoughts.
That's right.
And if you don't do that, you will be in a constant state of you'll have anxiety.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you have a lot of amazing things happening.
I do.
First of all, and before we get into The Banker, you are producing now too.
I did. I just produced my first film.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
On that. So
Thank you.
when do we get to see that?
It's called Fatal Affair. It's on Netflix, and it's with Omar Epps. I think it's coming out in July.
Wow, so that's
what I'm
great.
hearing. Yeah, it'll be straight for streaming. It's not a theatrical release.
I love Netflix, though.
Me too,
I'm on my
girl.
Netflix.
I know.
That's two pillars of 90s Black cinema. You and Omar.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's why I cast him. I said, Omar, it's been a minute since we've worked together. He's such a good actor. But most importantly, I wanted to work with my friends.
Right.
I wanted to work with people that I love and respect. And nothing against the new generation of actors, because there are some beautiful, talented people that are taking the lead right now, and I am extremely proud of them. But in this situation, I knew that the audience for this film was going to be somewhere between 30 and above. So I wanted to give them something that they were familiar with from their childhood or from their younger years.
You know what I meant to ask? I want to go back to your dad. I just had a question. You have 2 children.
Yes.
Do you do anything different than what your dad did with you? Because my dad was a police officer. He was very protective. And with my kids, I try not to be as protective because I hated it.
Right.
So is there anything that you do and you say, you know what, I make sure I do this because I don't want to parent like them? I kind of didn't like that. Is there anything?
I have to be honest with you. My mother was thank God I was born like a decent human being, because my mom was very hands off. But I think
In Brooklyn?
Well, so I was born in Brooklyn.
Right.
Whoop, whoop.
I lived in Iowa City for 6 years, and that's when I was super young. Then we moved to LA, to South Central LA, and then every summer I'd come back and be with my grandparents in Brooklyn. So I had an interesting childhood because Iowa was we were the only Black people there. But my mother wore her afro. I had my afro. I was raised, she was a hippie, really. But she was very free. And it was the 2 of us. And remember, she was 22. So we were like best friends. My parents divorced when I was super young. Again, my father's idea of success for me was
Get a job.
Get a job. Well, really, it was go to college, get your degree. If you want to be an actress, go get a job as a waitress, and then see how that works out for you.
Right.
And I was like, I'm not doing it that way. I don't need to go to college to do what I want to do. So I went, I did a little bit, and then I started working because, again, that was during the time where there was, a handful of brown girls really working. And I got lucky and blessed, and it happened for me. So the way I raise my boys, I'm super honest, probably too honest. My older son, my 19-year-old, and I talk about everything. I mean, the nitty gritty down.
He's
the
into
dirty.
dating now and all that.
Oh my God! I was like, I don't want to hear it. Stop. That's enough.
Yeah, Envy was a late bloomer, so he didn't have.
He was a late bloomer. Mine was a late bloomer.
Okay.
Like he didn't really like. He was a late bloomer. He was respectful of women. He kind of, And then my little
You
guy.
said was, so that now he's out here dating.
Now he's bloomed.
Now he's bloomed.
He is a full flower.
Or maybe he just feel comfortable telling mom everything now. Maybe he just told you some things.
I mean, I know a lot. I know more than I want to know. And I'm okay with that. But here's what I'm most proud of. He's a good dude.
Right.
I trust him. I trust him with his brother. I trust him with the way that he treats other people. I trust, where we are now is it's interesting because we're in a bit of a tug of war because he wants to be his own man. And he's in college and he's on his way and he plays baseball and he's handsome and smart and all of the things. But I'm like, dude, you're not paying any bills yet. So there's a fine line between, Mom, you don't know what you're talking about and we're going to do it this way.
Absolutely.
So I try to give and take because I want him to make those mistakes so that he can learn who he is.
Right.
One of your sons didn't like watching your movies, right? I remember you saying that last time you was here.
Was it the little one?
I think so. Has that changed?
Well, the little one is just like, why are you gone all the time? Like, dude, what? And I'm not gone a lot, but he's up
under his mom.
He really is. He is like my baby. And he's I have to make deals with him. Like yesterday we had to go to the movies, so he'd be okay with me coming to New York today because we were in Philly.
Oh, that's fine.
Yeah.
He bribed you.
He did bribe
He bribed
me.
you, yes.
But you do have this movie, The Banker.
Yes,
That's about
yes,
to come out.
yes.
And so this is based on a true story. Right, Bernard Garrett. He's a businessman, but this is in the 60s. And back then...
From the 40s to the 60s, so basically the whole civil rights era.
Right, so at first he was trying to do real estate, but
Yep.
that's hard when you're a black person back then, especially trying to buy into the real estate market.
It's hard as a black person now.
It's hard, yeah, but
It is.
imagine what it was
But
like
there
back
were
then, Envy.
I couldn't even imagine.
Yeah.
And redlining, so we were basically cast out of the process, period, and not allowed to get loans. And so these two men came into the game and really helped to change the laws so that black people could get loans and that we could buy property and we could start investing into our own communities.
And they had to actually get a white person to be the front of their business.
Yes, they did. Played by Nicholas Hoult. And so he was a everyday kind of around the way kind of white guy, middle class, and they used him as the front man to trick the banks into selling the banks to them. And eventually it implodes. But it's a fun ride and it's a great history lesson. And I think what we need to start having the conversations about rich versus wealth. I think you need to have a rich spirit, but you should strive to be wealthy because wealth is generational.
Absolutely.
And I think as black people, we're so used to being satisfied with just getting a new pair of sneakers or getting a nice car or getting that, that record deal or that job that we think we want. And it's not our fault because, again, we were raised to survive.
That's
Right.
Not to be
Not to
wealthy,
thrive. Yeah.
Not to thrive. And so we have to recondition the way that we're thinking about our place in the world. Because at the end of the day, we are, I believe, the heart and soul of culture.
100%.
Yeah.
We control the cool.
All of it.
Yeah.
So if we're controlling that, why are we not controlling the money? Because we're creating the avenue to make the money. Right? So, and I'm guilty of it too. I'll go buy a Chanel bag instead of, but then I'm like, but I need both.
Right.
There's got to be balance.
As long as you can invest in the things you need to invest in and you can treat yourself, I think there's nothing wrong with,
Right, you
I
gotta
took care of all this and I have this left over and and I'm good. I can buy myself a bag.
Right.
But I also think
I
'cause
tell
we were
myself
never-
that all the time.
We were never taught.
I'm glad that you.
We were never taught. And I think this generation, our kids,
Yes.
I think it'll change because, like you said, I was the first person in my family to go to college.
Right.
My parents, you work 30 years, you retire, and that's it. There was no generational anything, but now we're starting to change that. We're starting to learn about real estate. We're starting to learn about entrepreneurship. We're starting to learn about these things. I think it'll change this next generation.
Yeah, because we're getting new tools, new resources, everything we're talking about, from therapy to real estate, all of that stuff is new tools, new resources we're passing on.
And there's also a wider lane to find success. Like, we can be all things now. And I think one of the things I love about Jay and Beyonce is they are really standing at the forefront and showing young men and women how to do it, especially Jay, because Jay's involved in a lot of business. I mean, Beyonce is our queen. We love her. But I love Jay. And I think that if he can continue to move in the way that he is and still put out records and still be on stage, then you are capturing a whole community of people aging from, very young to adulthood. And I think that's important that we have those heroes in front of us.
And as a black man, like, the greatest thing about Jay is his growth and evolution. To watch that
Absolutely.
over the years shows all of us, like, it's okay to grow. It's okay to evolve.
That's right.
Yeah.
And it's okay to be the dude that had to do what you had to do on the corner, but you ain't got to stay there.
That's right.
Correct.
That's right.
And you don't promote it.
And you don't promote it.
How draining was The Banker, though? Because when you do a movie like that, you realize things aren't really different in 2020.
I will tell you that it was not an easy shoot, mostly because we didn't have a lot of money to make the movie to begin with. It rained when it wasn't supposed to, and when it was supposed to, it didn't. Here's the thing. When you're making a film about history, and important history, and there are very few films out there where we get to see black people in a heroic position changing history, you want to get it right? And so obviously I'm depending on my director, George Nolfi, who was fantastic and gave us so much room to be whatever we thought we needed to be in the role. And Samuel Jackson, who I freaking love him.
Right.
And Anthony Mackie, I play Anthony Mackie's wife. We had a good time, but there was just an underlying feeling of intensity because we knew that we had a social responsibility to educate and take people on a journey.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't like shooting, The Best Man or Friday, or it was a little different.
And it was, I'm sure, educational for you, like things that you learned while you were filming.
For sure.
And this was supposed to be the first movie on Apple TV Plus also, right? The first.
It was. And then we had a little bit of a hiccup.
Right.
Listen, that has nothing to do with the movie. And I'm glad that we got a new release date. And I'm very sensitive to women and what women go through, and I don't think any woman should be violated. But I'm just glad that Apple has sort of regrouped and given us a platform to release the film, because I think it's an important film. I know it's an important film.
That was a weird reason not to put the movie out, though. It's not like anybody that was in the movie did something. You know what I mean?
I know.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
It's almost like they don't want that story to be told. Like, let's not put this out. You might inspire black people.
That's what it felt like.
You know what I mean?
Well, maybe the women had a reason to feel a way when they see somebody glorified that was not glorifying to them for what they allegedly went through. So, because it was his
here's the
half-sisters.
thing. Bernard Garrett had 2 wives. He had the wife that I play, Eunice.
His first wife.
His first wife. And he had a white wife. So I think the story that we told was about his experience with Eunice. And the woman who came forward was from a second marriage. So I don't know anything about it. I can't say yay or nay.
Right.
But I do. I think Apple had to go through the process of, what else? Is there something that we don't know that's going to come in and
Absolutely
shut us down?
Right.
But I also think there is, you don't need to be too careful. Be careful and respectful, but don't be too careful and kill the project that we so need to see. And, it's unfortunate because it took us out of the Oscar race for this past Oscars, but it doesn't mean we can't be in the mix for next year.
Yeah.
There was just a buzz. There was a build, and then it was like, oh my God, I got my dress and I got all my thing, and then up.
Yeah.
So very Birth of a Nation.
What is that?
Birth of a Nation is. They kind of did the same thing with Birth of a Nation. Important story. And that could have inspired a lot of black people. I don't know. It just felt that way.
Yeah, I think also, too, we are, sadly, we don't get to see a lot of films, or we are the hero.
Yes.
And I think that, and so when you have that one project and it gets like a start-stop, you automatically go to, wait, is this personal? Or is this justified? And I think black people respond to that across the board in that way.
But they did get over the hump, and so the movie
got over
is
the hump, and we're coming out March the 6th.
yes,
Great.
March 6th. So that's great. So what are some of the things that you learned that you didn't know before filming this? the banker?
Well, I didn't know of the two men, Joe Wilson and Bernard Garrett. I had no idea. I didn't know their story at all.
It's like a hidden figure situation. I didn't know that story at all. And then you learn about it. It makes you even more proud.
For sure. So I really was not aware of the two men. But I was aware of redlining and sort of the social history of that time. But I will tell you, like, my dad has a house in Trenton that my grandmother bought many years ago. And my grandmother's mother was one generation away from slavery. So that house was like striking gold for my family.
Everything for them.
Everything. Like everything. And we had to put the house on the market. And I called the real estate agent and I said, Black woman. And I said, I want you to be very aware of who we sell this house to. Because this is Trenton, and you can get a nice house for about $85,000, which sounds like nothing. But for that neighborhood and for those hardworking people that live in Trenton, that's a lot of money.
That's everything for them, right?
That's
Absolutely.
everything. I said, so please be conscious of who you sell this house to.
Right.
And she said, well, that's illegal. I said, I don't give a fuck if it's illegal. We're going to do the right thing by our community because I'm not down for gentrification if it doesn't serve the community.
Yeah, because gentrification is not a problem. It's the displacement.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's the displacement. That's right. And so I don't know that she likes me. I'm sure she doesn't. But
Does she still have the listing?
Well...
Because when it expires,
she
might have to
not.
expire. Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
she might not after, but I am militant in my own little way, and I really try to push things forward and stand strong in my beliefs because I do understand that we are the generation that actually is pushing certain things forward because we are connected to the freedom fighters.
Right.
We are connected to the leaders of the civil rights movement. That's us.
Man.
We're the closest thing to it.
Watching The Banker, one of the hardest things must be for the character of Bernard Garrett to actually have to still be so respectful when people were being so disrespectful to him. Imagine having to bite your tongue when people are being blatantly racist and doing illegal things to you just because of the color of your skin.
Yeah.
And he still had to be like, yes, sir, I'm sorry, sir, no,
and
ma'am.
look down. It was funny. There's one scene in the movie where I have this conversation with Nicholas Hoult. And in the film, I'm basically saying to the Nicholas Hoult character, I'm like, you don't understand all of this because you're not Black. And I wanted to be fiery with it. I wanted to give it to him, not in the same way that you would in
say Tay Diggs when you slap him.
no, not that version, and not even the Roxanne version, but somewhere in the middle. And the director kept saying, no, she wasn't that kind of woman. She was more reserved. She was a lot more selective with her words. And it's to your point. She did her pushing in silent. It was their pillow talk, So with her husband at home, she would be aggressive and pushy and, honey, no, we can do this. We can be a part of this movement. Just keep moving forward. But in front of others, and especially a white man, she would choose her words carefully. And that was hard for me to play because I wasn't of that generation. So I had to kind of rewire my way of thinking and go, okay, well, if I were living during this time, knowing that the world around me was not in favor of the color of my skin, then how would I actually have these very deep it was almost very passive aggressive. That's kind of how people operated. No one was that direct unless you were a civil rights leader. But I'm talking day-to-day conversations.
Because you don't know what could happen to you.
You don't know what could
also.
happen.
But I see that now, too. I
hate
see that
it.
now, too. And it bothers the hell out of me.
I hate Negroes like that.
What, passive aggressive?
Yeah, don't
You
be
still
all
see that now.
amped up around your own people, but then when you get in front of those white people, you all docile.
But you have to understand, there's one scene
I don't
where
like
the
code
police
switching.
come.
But that was, I hear what
This is
you're
a different
saying.
period in time where you could get killed or something.
No, I
There was
understand
one
that.
period where the police officers come. He owns the property, and they're like, this woman called and said, you are acting as if you're
owning the
this
property, and
this
they tell him to
property,
leave.
and he has to pull out the paperwork and show it. But that could have went totally left if he said what he wanted to say.
I get
Right.
it, but we still act like that now is the
Yes.
problem. It's like we still have that trauma. So
I don't.
We whisper around white people.
I really
And
don't.
I don't either. I look
I
forward
mean,
to it.
I get in
I'm intentional
trouble
about
for
it.
it. I get like, she's difficult. She's a pain in. I'm a pain in the fucking ass. Now what?
I'm intentional about it.
How was it for
I
you?
love being in the office with just white people.
I mean, I like white people. I don't have a problem with them.
But we got to still be us at all times.
But I will always be my authentic self
Yes.
in the moment, and I will always speak up for what I believe in, and I will always give my opinion if I think it's necessary. And I will say no.
And especially in this business, because what you said is important. Sometimes you have to remind them you don't know what the hell you're talking about because you're not black.
Period.
That's it.
How was the
Period.
experience for you producing for the first time? What was that like for you being on the other side?
Ooh,
Yeah, 'cause
that-
I like when you said, yeah, I casted Omar Epps. I like that.
I didn't mean it like that.
casted him.
Did I say it like
Light
that?
flex.
the truth.
Light flex.
It sounds a light
flex.
flex.
Because, you know, I've seen you talking about how you see all these white men getting rich off of movies that you're
Yeah.
in. And now look at you producing. Is that the inspiration for that? And what was it like being on the other side?
I'll tell you, sometimes you can get a producer credit and it's really just for the
The look.
look. But this one I really did the work. And it was difficult at times because I'm a very visual person, so I kind of see the whole thing in my head before it happens. And when not everybody, no one can be in my mind, obviously, and read my mind, but I was very specific and deliberate about certain things. And to your point, the crew was white, the director was white, the producer was white, and they were lovely because they allowed me to correct things that needed to be corrected. But it's still frustrating that you have to over-explain yourself in this business to this day. That's tough because I kept feeling like I needed to apologize for wanting to change something. But why am I apologizing?
Right. You're trying to make this the best movie you possibly can make it. It benefits
Right.
everybody.
And that's also being a woman in a position of power where there's all men around you. I was literally there were literally 3 women on that set.
Sheesh. There's a lot that still has to change.
There's a lot that still has to change. And I never backed down. I was like, nope, you need to change that. Nope, don't like that angle. Nope, move the camera. Nope.
And you
nope.
see that a lot. Like if that's a guy, then they'll say that guy's being a boss. But if it's a woman, they'll be like, oh,
She's a bitch.
Nia Long has a history of diva behavior.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Because when I started in this business, you weren't supposed to say anything except thank you. And I was like, thank you, but. And I wasn't even aware. I was just being myself. Honestly, there wasn't ever I just don't think that you need to behave in any situation. I think you need to grow and learn. I'm not going to be, I'll behave. No, that's sort of the expectation is that you're supposed to be happy to be here, do the work, keep it simple, do what we ask you to do, and then go home. And I never got into this business with that mindset. And honestly, when I did Alfie with Jude Law, that was the best experience of my life because the actors were given the floor to talk and create and move things around. And, I don't feel this really works for me. So there's a difference even in the production when it's a black film versus a white film.
Do you feel your evolution as a woman is shown through your characters?
I do. Not in Roxanne. Roxanne, I don't know that lady.
You know?
I mean, she's not a part of me. I do know that lady, but you know what I'm saying?
Right.
I don't. But I had to know that woman and have some experience. Look, we live right down the street from the projects when I lived in Brooklyn to understand how to play her, right? I do think so. I mean, I'd like to do more. I'd like to have more diversity in my portfolio and play different roles.
You haven't played your dream role yet, right?
I don't think so. I think it's also the body of work is what makes me proud.
Right. Such an impact to this day and age.
Thank you. It's like, yeah, the body of work is like, okay, I'm still doing it.
Mm-hmm.
How, like to have a long career as an artist is but after every job I'm like, okay, was that the last one? What's happening next? And it never is.
You
so
still
I'm
got
like,
a lot in the pipeline.
Yeah,
What do you tell a young actress right now that's watching this and and wishing to be you one day or like you one day?
Yeah.
How did you pick your roles? How did you go about saying this one is good for me, this one might not work for me? What do you tell a young actress?
Authenticity. Don't change based on what you see. Change based on what you know you need to do to better yourself. Because I think a lot of times young artists come and they steal a little bit of this and they steal a little bit of that. But if you really start from your authentic self, all the embellishments will come through your experiences. And that's what creates and grows the artist. Like when I see, when we did Love Jones, everyone's like, oh my God, this is like the modern day Mahogany. And I was like, okay, but isn't that what art is? You take from the past and you recreate it, and you are to be inspired by the thing that came before you and the thing that's in front of you. So when I see, I want to go see The Photograph. Because all my friends are like, it reminds you of Love Jones, but it's so different from Love Jones, but the look of it, and I really like the director, Stella.
Yeah, she was the writer. She actually said Love Jones was the inspiration for the film.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
She's Jamaican, so she's a little island gal.
Yeah, Stella McGee.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. I really like her. I'm looking forward to seeing that film. But my point is to be a part of seeing, like, watching Mahogany and being a part of Love Jones and now seeing The Photograph. All young artists need to take a step back and look at what came before them, learn from that, suck that in, be who they are in the moment, and then recreate. But not
Imitate.
Yeah. Thank you. That's the word.
Yeah. What do you think was different about black cinema in the 90s, though? That's lacking now. Because black films don't have that feeling. I'm sorry. They just don't. There's no Boys in the Hood. There's no Love Joneses. It don't have that same energy.
I know. I don't know. And I have a hard time watching things because I'm like, but wait a minute, why did they do that? Or the lighting or the I think one of the things is we were using real film. Now everything is digital. So the quality is different.
Everything has to count too because it's so expensive when you have to redo.
Oh well, and with film, you had to light it. So there was a DP actually lighting you, not this one big light that lights everything and then they go in the computer and adjust it. So I am. If I look on the monitor, I'm like, you need to fix that right now. No, we're going to fix it in post. I'm like, no, we're going to fix it right now because I'm not going to be in post and I want to see what I look like. And it's not because I'm vain. It's because if I don't have light in my eyes, I can't perform.
Explain it. I'm not an actor.
Because some people speak with their eyes, right? Some people have bigger eyes, so they don't need the light in their eyes. But I have very almond-shaped eyes. So if you don't light my eyes, you don't see what I'm doing.
The emotion of
like I think your eyes tell a story.
Yeah.
This long has to go too. Guys.
I've seen some visually stunning films that still were whack though.
Like
I don't want to say.
Come on, you always want to say.
I guess we can say this now. I didn't like Queen and Slim.
I didn't
personally.
see it. I should be ashamed of myself, but I was actually really dealing with my dad during that time, and I was like, I can't even. I want to see it. I think people had mixed reviews.
Visually stunning. I just didn't like the story. So I understand what you're saying about lighting and stuff, but it's the story. Boys in the Hood was a great story. Right. Love Jones was a great story. Minister Society was a great story. The stories just be whack now.
Look, here's the thing. To create art, you don't need to be slick. Don't be slick.
Yeah, just tell
the damn story. You don't need to go, ooh, what if we do this?
Yes.
No, because there's only, what do they say, 4 stories to be told over and over again?
Shakespeare, comedy, tragedy.
Yeah, it's not
romance.
That. It doesn't have to be that difficult.
Yeah.
I hear what you're saying.
Because then that's when it don't make no sense. Like Queen and Slim, the woman is an attorney, a defense attorney. You get shot at by a cop.
She just told you she ain't see it.
And your only
That's all right.
the only thing you can think
And I
to
ain't
do
seen it yet
is
either.
go on the run.
Well, we
Like
had
that's your only plan. Like, it's like,
Well, because it's like because here's what I think we struggle with. We struggle with wanting black people in film to look professional, to have jobs, to be educated. But then you still want to tell the hood tale. So, like, be true to who they are. And it's not that you can't be both, because I'm both.
yes.
I will be like
be
this
clear.
in a second, but I'm also a lady. I know how to, it's all those things.
Right.
But I think, to your point, if I don't know if the character is an attorney, I didn't see the movie, so it's hard for me to comment on this. But if the character is an attorney, and then what happens?
She got shot by a cop, and it was her idea. Let's go on the run. Like, you don't have nobody at the law firm you can call.
I
You
think we
can't-
got to see
like,
this in order
there's
to
nothing-
comment.
I think so too.
Don't
She
fall in
didn't
that
get shot
rabbit
by the
hole.
cop.
Yes, she did.
I thought they shot the cop.
No, she got shot, and then that's when the dude grabbed the gun and ended up shooting the
Oh, you know,
cop.
I didn't see it. I'm
Oh, my God.
messing myself up.
Oh my God!
But
Well,
even with that said, hood stories can have that Shakespearean feel. You can't tell me Boys in the Hood wasn't a tragedy.
absolutely,
hood.
Yeah.
absolutely. But so you have to have well-developed, dynamic characters. If you don't start from that, then the story's not going to be great. And I think, I don't know. Like, I think, when you have a person like John Singleton, rest his soul, when he died, that broke my heart.
Right.
Like, really broke my heart, because he discovered me. He created a lane for people to even care about my name. And so losing him and then losing my father, and I was like, God, and they were kind of like the same kind of dude, I don't know that they make them like that anymore.
Yeah.
I don't know that they make men that are so aware of the black struggle, so savvy to make change and then make art. I don't know that my son will be able to have all of those things, because many generations away from it. So like, we have to do our work as parents, but
I think it's one person right now that's making that black activism through art at that level.
who's that?
Ava DuVernay.
Yeah, she
I
is.
think Ava's the one. She's making that John Singleton level activism, black activism through art, to me.
No, I agree with you. I think she's a beautiful filmmaker, and I also think it's nice to see a woman's perspective, because there's a softness about all of her films that I appreciate. And I think we're in a place right now where women just have this lane to be fantastic and to be heard and to do it our way and not have to conform or make ourselves small. And it's because of her. So, I think art is always changing. I think I worry about this generation, because I don't think they give any respect to the people who have paved the way for them. And when I say this generation, I'm talking like 20-year-olds. They just don't have any concept. Maybe they're just young. I don't know.
It's also a lot easier how they can get into the. You can
Well,
just
right.
make
All
something
you
on
gotta
your
do is have
computer,
like
your-
some
yeah.
good lashes and good contour, and you can be a star now. So what does that tell you?
And some followers, some Instagram followers.
You
and
need
you're-
followers.
And then you're a star.
You are a star.
So you got to produce more. That's the moral of the conversation.
Right.
You have to,
We said all of that to
That's
say,
what you have to produce more, Miss Long.
and I will. I
This long
will.
has to go, guys.
All right.
I will. Thank you. That was a beautiful interview.
We appreciate
Banker,
you for
March
joining
6th.
us. That's right.
The Bankers March 6th in theaters.
Yes.
And then on Apple TV Plus, is it after it's in theaters?
It's after, and I'm going to look up the date for you right now.
Okay.
The 20th.
Okay.
You see, they changed the date on us so many
You're
times.
like, we
I
gotta
had to
make
make
sure we
sure and
know.
give me the right date. The 20th on Apple TV Plus.
All right, perfect.
Well, it's the Breakfast Club. It's Miss Nia Long.